The old lighthouse keeper's cottage clung to the rugged cliff edge like a stubborn limpet, defying the relentless assault of the Pacific Northwest winds. For Amelia Hayes, its isolated charm was precisely the appeal. She rolled her vintage Jeep Wrangler down the gravel path, dust swirling behind her, the engine finally sputtering into silence. The air, crisp and tasting of salt and pine, filled her lungs. She'd come here, to this meticulously refurbished station, to escape. Not just the suffocating aftermath of a brutal breakup, but the clamor of the academic world. Here, amidst the raw power of the ocean, she would find the focus she needed for her research on deep-sea bioluminescence. The cottage itself was a picture of rustic serenity. Weathered cedar shingles, a sturdy, deep-set porch, and windows that stared out across an endless expanse of churning gray-blue. Inside, the scent of aged wood and damp earth lingered, a comforting counterpoint to the sterile labs she was used to. But as Amelia unpacked her specialized equipment, hydrophones, deep-sea cameras, custom sample vials, a subtle, indefinable unease began to settle over her. It wasn't menacing, just out of place, like the silence that sometimes fell between waves, a pregnant pause before the next crash. Her first afternoon was spent exploring the rocky shoreline near her new home. The tide was out, revealing tidal pools teeming with life, but it was something else that caught her eye. Partially buried in the sand, just beyond the high tide line, was a series of intricate, hand-carved wooden buoys. They weren't modern. Their surfaces were smoothed by years of salt and friction, carved with symbols that Amelia didn't recognize, swirling, almost biological patterns that seemed to pulse with a silent energy. Each buoy had a small glass vial attached, sealed with a stopper, and inside each vial, a shimmering, unidentifiable amber liquid swirled faintly. They felt ancient, primordial, completely out of sync with the picturesque, tourist-friendly coastline. She picked one up, the wood warm against her palm, the cryptic symbol almost seeming to hum under her fingertips. Later that day, needing to stock up on essentials, Amelia drove into the nearest fishing village. It was a place time seemed to have forgotten, a cluster of weather-beaten shacks and one general store that smelled of old rope and dried fish. Inside, she met Finn, a young, earnest shopkeeper whose eyes, bright and perhaps a little too keen, seemed to take in everything about her. He was overly eager to help, recommending local spots and subtly probing her reasons for choosing such an isolated research station. Not many folks stay out at the old lighthouse for long, he remarked, a strange, knowing lilt in his voice. Some things out there, they prefer their quiet. As Amelia paid, a gruff voice rumbled from the back of the store. Captain Silas Thorne, a reclusive local mariner with a face etched by sun and sea, emerged from behind a towering stack of fishing nets. His gaze, sharp and piercing, fixed on Amelia. "You're new to the keeper's cottage, eh?" he asked, his voice like grinding stone. "Best you learn to leave what the ocean claims, girl. Some legends ain't just stories." He gave her a long, appraising look before turning back to his nets, leaving Amelia with a chill that had nothing to do with the sea breeze. Back at Cottage 506, as dusk bled into night, Amelia found herself drawn to the towering old lighthouse lantern, now a decorative, decommissioned relic attached to her living room. She'd noticed it earlier, but now, in the growing darkness, a faint internal light flickered within its dusty glass. It wasn't bright enough to illuminate anything, just a subtle, persistent glow, creating dancing shadows on the walls that, for a fleeting moment, seemed to mimic the very symbols carved onto the buoys she'd found. She frowned, dismissing it as faulty wiring in the old structure, or perhaps just her tired imagination. Sleep didn't come easily. The rhythmic crash of the waves against the rocks, once a soothing lullaby, now felt like a relentless, primeval heartbeat. Amelia drifted into a restless dream, plunging deep underwater, surrounded by swirling, luminous currents. Indistinct, predatory shapes moved just beyond the shimmering veil of light, their forms fluid and immense. And then, a sound, a muffled, rhythmic thumping, resonating from the deepest, darkest parts of the abyss. She woke with a gasp, heart hammering against her ribs, the thumping echoing in her ears. The ocean outside, vast and unknown, now felt less like a sanctuary and more like a boundless, living entity, its depths holding secrets that threatened to surface. Amelia spent the next few days in a blur of scientific rigor and growing unease. The cryptic buoys now lined up on her laboratory table in the cottage dominated her focus. The amber liquid in their vials resisted all her standard tests, displaying baffling viscosity and an almost imperceptible internal luminescence that seemed to react to her presence. The symbols carved into the wood were even more perplexing. They weren't any known maritime or cultural script. Yet, their swirling, organic lines resonated with something primal in her, echoing the shapes she studied in deep-sea micrographs. She meticulously sketched each symbol, tracing their intricate patterns, a sense of obsessive fascination taking root. One blustery afternoon, a sudden knock on her door startled her. It was Captain Silas Thorne, his weathered face grimmer than before. He didn't come to scold her about buying too much bait. Instead, he spoke in a low, gravelly voice, his eyes fixed on the churning ocean. "Heard you found some of the old markers," he began, not a question, but a statement. "They say they're from the Serpent's Kiss, a fishing vessel lost decades ago. Went down in a storm, they said, but my grandpappy always swore it wasn't the storm that took them. Said it was the sleepers from the deep, awakened by foolish men digging where they shouldn't." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "There are things down there, girl, things best left undisturbed. Ancient things. They don't take kindly to being woken." He left as abruptly as he arrived, leaving Amelia with a chill that burrowed deeper than the coastal wound. Silas's words, coupled with the inexplicable properties of the vials, fueled Amelia's growing suspicion. She spent hours online, delving into local archives and digital newspaper records. Fragmented accounts of the Serpent's Kiss confirmed its mysterious disappearance. But then, a truly chilling find, an old, grainy newspaper article from the 1930s. It reported the inexplicable death of a previous researcher who had occupied this very lighthouse keeper's cottage. The researcher had been found unresponsive, with no visible injuries, much like the victims of some strange, obscure medical mysteries she'd heard about. What stood out was a brief, almost buried line about an unidentifiable, viscous substance found near the body. The hair on Amelia's arms stood on end. Later that evening, while attempting to fix a persistently dripping pipe in the cottage's small, damp basement, Amelia noticed something odd. Beneath a section of crumbling stone, a section of the wall seemed subtly different, too uniform. Prying at it, she discovered a cleverly concealed compartment. Inside, nestled amongst a layer of dried seaweed and sand, was an aged, water-damaged logbook. Its pages were brittle, but still legible. She brought it upstairs, placing it carefully under her lab light. The frantic, almost desperate handwriting filled her with dread. The entries detailed the previous researcher's descent into a chilling obsession. Increasing bioluminescent phenomena, a strange, low humming from the abyss, and a growing terror of something ancient and intelligent beneath the waves. The sketches grew more erratic, filled with the same cryptic symbols from the buoys. The final entry, scrawled in a frantic hand, ended abruptly mid-sentence. "A gift from the deep, its eyes are." Amelia shuddered, the logbook heavy in her hands. She pushed herself away from the table, drawn instinctively to the window overlooking the vast, dark ocean. As she gazed out, her eyes strained against the inky blackness. She saw it, a dark figure, impossibly still, silhouetted against the distant, faint glow of the moon on a rocky outcrop far down the coast. It seemed to be staring directly at her cottage. A beat later, when she blinked and looked again, it was gone, leaving only the endless, crashing waves and a profound sense of being watched. The logbook became Amelia's constant companion, its brittle pages whispering secrets from the past. The previous researcher, a Dr. Eris Thorne, had meticulously documented increasingly bizarre bioluminescent phenomena deep offshore, sketching strange, pulsating lights that defied known marine biology. His entries grew more frantic, describing a low, rhythmic humming from the abyss that seemed to correlate with the lights, and a chilling, escalating fear of something ancient and intelligent beneath the waves. Thorne's sketches of the anomalous lights and organisms were strikingly similar to the cryptic symbols Amelia found on the buoys. The final entry, scrawled in a desperate hand, simply read, "A gift from the deep, its eyes are," then abruptly cut off, leaving a gaping, terrifying void. Amelia's own instruments began to corroborate Thorne's descent into the unknown. Her hydrophones picked up faint, rhythmic vibrations emanating from the seabed, precisely matching the thumping sound from her nightmares. She also observed unusual localized currents near the research station, defying all predictable patterns, as if something immense was subtly altering the ocean's flow. Her growing obsession didn't go unnoticed. Finn, the young shopkeeper, started appearing with unnerving frequency, his helpfulness shifting into something more invasive. He'd drop by, the cottage with extra supplies, his eyes always darting towards her lab table, lingering on the buoys and the open logbook. His questions about her research became less casual, more probing. "Finding anything interesting out there, Dr. Hayes?" he'd ask, a subtle, almost predatory gleam in his overly keen eyes. Some knowledge, they say, is best left undisturbed. Amelia even caught him lingering near her cottage late one evening, his silhouette just barely visible against the twilight, his demeanor no longer friendly, but subtly possessive. The weight of the logbook's secrets, combined with Finn's unsettling presence and the inexplicable phenomena, pushed Amelia to make a decision. She had to see it for herself. Ignoring Silas's ominous warnings about disturbing ancient sleepers, she began modifying her most robust deep-sea drone. She reinforced its titanium casing, upgraded its pressure sensors, and calibrated its high-definition cameras to capture extreme bioluminescence. This wasn't just research anymore. It was a desperate quest for answers. Finally, the night came. The ocean was unusually calm, a deceptive mirror reflecting the star-dusted sky. Amelia launched the drone from the rocky shoreline, its powerful thrusters humming softly as it descended into the uncharted depths. She huddled over the control console in her cottage, the live feed from the drone displayed on a large monitor, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The images were breathtaking, otherworldly, vast alien landscapes of volcanic vents and bizarre organisms pulsating with ethereal light. Then a strange rhythmic light appeared in the distance, growing larger, more intense. It wasn't organic, it was a structured, pulsating glow. Just as Amelia leaned closer, a sudden, jarring interference seized the feed. The screen flickered violently, colors distorting. For a terrifying fraction of a second, a vast, unidentifiable shape with geometric precision, adorned with the cryptic symbols, surged towards the drone, before the connection was abruptly, irrevocably lost. The screen went dark, leaving Amelia alone in the glowing silence of her lab, her breath hitched in her throat. The ocean outside seemed to hold its breath. The silence in Amelia's lab after the drone feed cut out was deafening, broken only by the relentless thumping that now seemed to emanate not just from the ocean, but from within the very foundations of the cottage. Her hands trembled as she meticulously examined the recovered drone. It was heavily damaged, its cameras shattered, but the internal data recorder was miraculously intact. With a surge of desperate hope, she managed to retrieve the last few corrupt frames. What she saw made the blood run cold. It wasn't an animal, no mere leviathan. The image, though distorted, clearly showed a complex, geometric structure, vast and alien, pulsing with the same strange bioluminescence she'd seen in the vials and the logbook. Its surface was adorned with the cryptic symbols, now horrifyingly familiar. It was an enormous ancient mechanism, stirring in the abyss. Driven by a primal need for answers, Amelia marched straight to Captain Silas Thorne's isolated shack. The old mariner, usually stoic, visibly flinched when Amelia, breathless, slammed the damaged drone and the open logbook onto his rough wooden table. She recounted the drone's last transmission, the terrifying glimpse of the structure. Silas, his face pale, finally broke. In a voice heavy with centuries of unspoken dread, he confessed his family's dark secret. "My ancestors," he rasped, "they were the lighthouse keepers before me. They made a pact with something in the deep, a bargain to keep it sleeping. We're the guardians, Amelia. Those buoys, they're not just markers, they're offerings. And the disappearances, they weren't accidents. They were sacrifices. Or perhaps just those who got too close, lured by its influence." His eyes, usually sharp, were now filled with a weary terror. It can whisper to the mind, you see, lure those who seek great knowledge, or simply profound solitude. Just as Silas finished, the door creaked open. Finn stood there, no longer the eager shopkeeper, but a man transformed. His eyes glowed with an unnatural zeal, mirroring the strange luminescence Amelia had just witnessed. "He's right, Amelia," Finn purred, his voice disturbingly calm. "It is a god, a benevolent one, offering ultimate understanding and peace. And you, Dr. Hayes, with your brilliant mind, you are meant to join us, or perhaps become another offering." He stepped fully into the shack, his movements fluid, predatory. A sudden, deep hum vibrated through the floorboards. The cottage itself seemed to groan. Back at Amelia's place, the flickering in the old lighthouse lantern on her porch intensified, casting shifting, unsettling patterns across the walls. The rhythmic thumping from the deep became deafening, vibrating in Amelia's bones. She understood then, the cottage wasn't just a research station. It was connected, it was a beacon, a trap. Finn lunged. "The performance is never truly over," he whispered, a chilling echo of the mad artist. Amelia scrambled back, her mind reeling. The floor of Silas's shack began to crack beneath their feet, directly where the ancient stone fireplace stood. A swirling, intense, bioluminescent light erupted from beneath, accompanied by an otherworldly hum that resonated deep in Amelia's very skull. The entity's voice, a soft, echoing hum, began to beckon directly into her mind, promising ultimate knowledge, an end to all pain, a complete cessation of worldly woes. It was a siren song, not just for the ears, but for the soul. The very air in Silas's shack crackled with raw, ancient power as the floor gave way, revealing a swirling vortex of bioluminescent light and unearthly energy. The hum from the abyss intensified, not just a sound, but a vibration that resonated in Amelia's very core, promising absolute understanding and an end to all worldly suffering. It was a siren call, terrifying yet strangely alluring. Finn, eyes wide with fanaticism, lunged for Amelia, his hand outstretched, a chilling echo of his earlier attempts to lure her into the entity's embrace. "Join us, Amelia! Become one with the knowledge!" he shrieked, his voice distorted by the throbbing energy. But then, with a guttural cry, Captain Silas Thorne, despite his age, threw himself at Finn. "Run, girl!" he roared, his voice laced with the desperate heroism of a man making a final, agonizing choice. Silas grappled with Finn, pushing him back towards the abyss, buying Amelia precious seconds. The last Amelia saw of them was a flash of bioluminescence engulfing both figures as the shack shuddered, then imploded inward, consumed by the glowing maelstrom. Amelia scrambled backward, tripping over rocks and roots, the raw power of the collapsing portal scorching the air behind her. She didn't stop running until her lungs burned and her legs screamed, collapsing in a heap miles down the coast. Gazing back at the now empty space where the cottage and Silas's shack once stood, only a massive, still pulsating crater remained, glowing faintly in the pre-dawn light, a stark scar on the rugged coastline. The investigation's dark echo. The official explanation was a sudden, localized geological event. A gas pocket, perhaps, a sinkhole. But when local authorities arrived, led by the skeptical yet persistent Detective Reynolds, they found nothing but the crater and Amelia, babbling a frantic, seemingly fantastical story of ancient pacts and sentient abyssal entities. Her account, filled with talk of bioluminescent structures and mind-altering hums, was dismissed as the ravings of someone traumatized by a bizarre natural disaster. Yet Reynolds, a seasoned detective with a nose for inconsistencies, couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was profoundly wrong. The sudden, inexplicable disappearances of Captain Silas Thorne and Finn, the absence of any debris, the lingering energy readings that confused his tech team, it all whispered of something far beyond geology. He pulled Amelia's discarded research notes from the ruins of her lab, finding her detailed studies of strange marine anomalies. He even contacted her former mentor, who spoke of Amelia's brilliant, yet sometimes unconventional theories. The unseen current. Amelia, now a survivor on the run, a phantom in the eyes of law enforcement, felt the entity's voice still echoing in her mind. It was a constant, low hum, a chilling reminder of the unimaginable knowledge she had glimpsed and the horror she had escaped. She realized the entity's influence wasn't confined to the abyss. It had subtly woven itself into the fabric of the coast, influencing people, preying on their desires for knowledge or solace. The disappearances from the past weren't just accidents or even sacrifices in the traditional sense. They were lure-ins, insidious calls to a terrifying, ultimate communion. The enduring mystery. Months passed. Amelia found refuge far from the coast, trying to rebuild a life to erase the whispers from her mind. But the abyss wasn't done with her. One damp, overcast morning, an anonymous package arrived at her secluded new address. Inside, nestled in a bed of dried seaweed, was a single, intricately carved wooden buoy. It was identical to the ones she had found on the beach, but this one glowed with a faint, internal, unmistakable bioluminescence. Attached was a chilling note, penned in an archaic script that seemed to shift before her eyes. The deep remembers. Amelia stared out at the distant gray horizon, a cold dread seeping into her very bones. The entity wasn't just a place, it was a presence. Its influence, its malevolent curiosity was reaching, waiting. The abyss was not buried, it merely slumbered, its secrets far from truly hidden. And Amelia knew, with a horrifying certainty, that its next performance was only a matter of time.